Welcome to Wellness Radio with Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher as your host. Her show discusses topics of health, wellness, and spirituality, and is about discovering your place in this great universe, from your cells to the cosmos. Along with her guest, in casual conversation, she strives to ask the difficult questions that may be holding you back from a vibrant life, and shares new ideas that may inspire you to make a change in your life that you only can see in your dreams. And now, here is Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Wellness Radio. This is Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher, and it's a pleasure to have you with us here this evening. Tonight, we are going to be talking about our senses, our knowing, our ability, our gifts, our intuition, our psychic abilities, and that of which we have a sense of something more in this world. What are we opening up to? Are we sensing different things? Are we feeling more energy around us? Are we now finally, in the year 2022, recognizing energy healing, that our bodies are energetic, that blocks may cause disease, that maybe a thought or a dream might be a message, something to work through? Perhaps maybe it's just a figment of your mind and the illusion you created. Truly, what is this all about? Is it about something in your mind and we have to be able to know and learn about and go to school and be able to find out about so we can be better spiritual beings? Or is it about the evolution of the human existence and the organism as being the vehicle to be able to be here, to be able to help us tune in to where we are today and to expand our knowing beyond our wildest dreams? Truly, that's what it's all about. Today, my guest is Karen Frazier. Her book is The Ultimate Guide to Psychic Abilities, a practical guide to developing your intuition. Karen, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you with us and have a dance in the ethers with us.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to talking to you.
So glad to have you, because so many times on this show, we all talk about these words, and people say, well, I really don't understand it. What's the definition? Or wait a minute, let me check it out on Google or Alexa. And I'll say, just tell me what you're feeling. What are you sensing? And expand that further. Do you think sometimes we need to open up to our senses and our feelings first and not worry so much about the labels right offhand?
Well, I think that that's the key. I think it's a great question, and the answer is absolutely. We are so intent on labeling things. As a matter of fact, I was just having a conversation like 10 minutes before you and I started talking with one of my employees about labeling things and how that can be damaging and how it can create a false sense of self and create stories that we dwell within and that we tell ourselves. And so I react and respond to the world almost entirely now by sensing things versus by labeling things. And I try to, in my coaching and in my writing and in all of the things I do, help people also to start to at least understand how to respond to the world through what they sense, because we're conditioned not to.
Yeah, because I think sometimes the labels are very limiting. Oh, that's what I feel. That's what I sense. That's what I know. And then all of a sudden they'll get a different feeling and they'll say, oh, no, you're not in that category. You have to go away. And they'll diss it.
Yeah.
Or they won't take it on. You know, I know for myself, I've shared so much on the radio show over the past decade, is that I've been full on with all psychic abilities this entire lifetime. It's just been there, from angels to astral traveling to all of the clairs, to knowing everything and sensing everything, you know, to seeing dark energy, to hearing, smelling, touching, sensing. And it's always been that way, so much so that now in the past 20 years, when this has become, more on the Internet, because we could read more about it. If you think pre-Internet, I was still at the library. There weren't a lot of books on this stuff, And when we think about it now in the last 20 years, it's kind of been out there, and I'll go, oh, yeah, got that, check it off. But then it was like, well, how do you engage with it? How do you find others that know something about it? and how can you have a conversation? And that's what we're doing here today. Yes, Karen?
Yes, it's absolutely what we're doing here today. And I'm like you. I honestly did not know that there were people who didn't interact with things on an energetic level, and that didn't know that people had like a signature, an energy signature, because they'd been told that was not possible, not because they didn't recognize those things and sense those things, but because they'd been told it was not possible, it was not real. There was a lack of information and understanding about it. And so I just thought everybody was like me. And I didn't know it was unusual until I started to sort of say something to people about it, and they'd be like, wait, what?
Right. Right. Well, it's interesting, Karen, is that I have 4 children, and they all have abilities, too, especially my daughter. She's full on, too. And it's interesting because her friends would come over and go and say something or ask me a question, and my daughter would say, look, my mother knows everything. You can't hide nothing from her, And even so, my daughter, they would say she has the all-knowing. She's already got her plan played out, and it just shows up. In fact, she was going to buy a house, and she says, ooh, we had 2, and this one I've really been following. I won it, and it didn't show up. And she says, oh, must be a reason. Okay, we'll take the other one. All good to go. So I think once you're also to a parent, you have these feelings within you and you're knowing, and if you're full on, your kids have pretty much been raised with that too, don't you think?
Yeah, so I have a stepdaughter and a son. They're both adults as well. And my son is very much like me, although he doesn't want to admit it. And he was raised with all of that. And he was also raised knowing that it's very hard to surprise mom, that he couldn't get away with anything. And if he thought he was getting away with anything and I looked at him funny, he would tell on himself because he figured I'd figured it out anyway. So there were some advantages to parenting that way.
Yes, and it's so vitally important to bring that up, Karen, is because now we are the grandparents, and we are noticing little children now that are coming into the world, birthed into the new world, and they're not coming in with old baggage. They're not old souls.
Yeah.
They are all new energy, and we can connect and converse almost as telepathy, so to speak. It's sort of like I can sit down and, I'll sit down with my grandkids, and my daughter will say to me, why aren't you even talking to her? I says, we're talking. Don't worry about it. We're good.
Yeah. I don't have grandkids yet. I have 2 grandnephews, and definitely there is something very different about them even than my son. And my son was very like this little old soul from the minute he was born, and continues to be very old soul. But it's definitely, I am really excited about the new generation of souls that are embodying and coming into human bodies and walking the earth, because I truly believe that we are in the middle of a huge energetic shift, and that those souls are coming faster and faster with fewer, I call them filters, basically fewer filters in place that make them much less susceptible to the conditioning that people of our generations maybe were more susceptible to. And I think that it bodes very well for humanity, even though it doesn't maybe seem like right now we're heading in a very positive direction.
Let's talk for a minute, Karen, about the last several decades. I grew up in the 50s, and I remember life was really hard. It was coming off war. It was coming off the Depression. There was a lot of alcoholism, abuse, violence. It was in my house constantly. It was pretty much out there. Yet there was, let's put into form, you and I at those times, and we were pretty much open. And then you fast forward a few decades, and you say in the 80s, and we had to go out as a knowing. We needed to go out and study and learn. And then in the 90s, we were to build and create. And then we look at the year 2000s, well, things aren't working out. Truly, that is the path of many light workers and starseeds right now, of those who have the psychic abilities now coming on. I can't tell you, I've been doing this radio show for 11 years now. I would say 90% of my radio guests are over the age of 65 because they've now been able to be free to speak. They've now been connected with the, oh, yeah, that's what I had kind of idea, just as you and I share. Or the idea that they want to tell their stories of how they've traversed through all of those dimensions of time, cleared out all of those old filters and veils, and are now becoming the freest that we can be. You know, a lot of times people will say, but I had so much hard stuff. My life has been wholly hard. And I'll say, fantastic, great. Tell me about your struggles, because you know what? Those are all the things that made you where you are today. So don't you think that humanity has put a really big label on people, that was all negative, that was all bad, that was all cast out, and that was all dark? When in essence, what you and I are saying is, fantastic, you showed me all your dark, now I'm going to show you the light, let's go. Isn't that what your book is all about?
It's happening for you, not to you. And it's, you know, you need, like if you think about gems, right? Because I'm a crystals person, and so I love me a pretty gemstone. If you think about, a gem comes out of the earth, and it is crusted in all of this rock, and it's gone through pressure and heat and all of these things, even to become this thing that's a piece that's potential inside of this rock, right? And the rock isn't very pretty. It's gray and gritty and dirty and all of those things. And in order for the gem to emerge, the potential to emerge from this rock, we don't handle those gemstones gently. We don't, you know, cradle them and swaddle them in blankets and all of that. We put them through, we pressure wash them, and we grind them down with hard surfaces and do all of these things. And even the act of polishing the gem to make it shine its brightest is not a gentle process. You've got the wheel that grinds and polishes the surface. And I look at it as these issues and things and difficulties, that what we perceive as difficulties are actually polishing away all of those layers of rock to reveal this inner gem.
You know, it's so interesting that you shared that story, and I was thinking about another story. Like I said, I live in New Orleans, and, you know, for the past several years, I would go outside every day and click pictures. Whatever was within 500 feet of my house, it was going to be a picture, and I never had any duplicates. But I really love the lichens, you know. We have a lot of that here. And they are everywhere. And there's all different kinds, orange and green and curly and flat and up the trees and in between. And they're just everywhere. Well, and I kept clicking them, and I was like, oh, they were just so beautiful. And I loved them because they were supporting the tree, and the tree was supporting them. And nature was providing the moisture. So it was sort of like it was showing a great symbiotic kind of existence. You know? And then one day I was checking out this supplement, and I said, for some reason, you know, months and months and months went by, and it kept coming up in my knowing. Order it, Jeanette. Order it. Check it out. And I kind of liked it and then put it to the side. And, well, that process went on for probably months. One day I ordered it, and they sent a flyer with it. And on the front of the flyer was a lichen. That's the basis of it. And I was going, oh, how cool. And a lichen, this particular supplement, is for the health of your heart. And I said, oh, that's wonderful. So I think right there is you're taking your psychic abilities, you're taking your knowing and of all the senses, bringing them all together, bringing it around in a circle to be able to navigate in this world. Because you really have to be open on many different levels to feel that process, just as you do with your rock and your gemstone and I do with the lichens and the supplement. Isn't that how we are seeing life going forward?
I think so. And I think you said something, you didn't say it specifically, but what I took from it is that you had a curiosity about the lichens, right? And I think often when we follow our curiosity, what we're doing is we're actually following psychic information. We're following are knowing. Curiosity is the very first sign that your intuition is saying, hey, this might be for you.
Mm-hmm. And isn't it also, too, you want to join in with it? Because when you do energy healing and energy work, you're joining in with the energy of something, a thought, a sense, a story, a tree, a rock, a lichen, whatever it is, food, an orange, whatever. And when you join in with that energy, you're dancing with the energy, as I said in the beginning of the show, dance in the ethers, with that energy. So you want to feel it and be one with it. So that's when both parties are open. And they're saying, oh, yeah, come with me. Come play in my sandbox, right?
Yes. And I think you probably know this in your healing work. Healing work is a partnership, and it's a partnership between you, the person who is accepting and receiving the healing, who's drawing in the healing, and with the universal energy. And so it's this very important, I don't know, is that a partnership if there's three? Anyway, it's a partnership. It's a collaboration between these three things. And if the person, and it can be a partnership where the person doesn't actually need a healer, if they have the right tools and the right willingness, they could seek and find that healing on their own, but it helps often to partner with somebody. So it's a collaboration that's super important. And if a person is not in a place where they are willing to accept and receive that healing, no healing will be possible.
And I think that's so very important to focus on for a minute, because when you start to become attuned to your psychic abilities, you may hear them, they be knocking at your door, but sometimes they're going to show up as dark energy if you don't pay attention, and that's okay, because then you could say, oh, gosh, like one time I looked over at my husband in sleep, and there was this big black, dark figure over him. And I went through the whole process of clearing it and all. Like, oh, okay. So what was that about? And then I remembered, oh, yeah, my bathroom has a vortex mirror in it, So it's time to clean things out with salt water again. But if you're not attuned to that and you're not open to that, and you're saying, I have fear, I have trepidation, I have too many stories or baggage in my ancestral lineage that I've been carrying on my back for a long time, I'm not going to go there. Then your psychic abilities will probably stay closed for a period of time until perhaps something, you'll crash into the wall, something will happen, and you'll need to attune to your own healing, or you will just leave this earth and then, maybe the next time around you'll pick them up. Don't you think those are options that everyone should say, oh, it's okay, I have options. I can bug in or I can bug out. Because sometimes people are afraid of that. And they're like, I don't want them.
Yeah, absolutely. My son right now is in a space in his life. He's 25, newly married, just fresh out of college. And he has been since he was a teenager. When he was a tween, he was like very into his abilities because they made him different. But then he went to school and he did all of these things, and he wanted to be normal, right? Yeah. We've all heard that. I want to be normal. I don't want to be. And I live in a very conservative small town here in Western Washington. There are some, and I happen to live in one of them. So it's not my hometown. It's just this is where my husband's job is. So this is where we live. And so he grew up in this very conservative small town, and anything that didn't fit this mold was very scorned, I guess, as much as anything. And so he wanted to be normal. He wanted to have friends. He wanted to be social. He wanted to do all of those things. And so he's in a place right now where he has chosen not to engage with his abilities. He understands he has them. He knows how to work with them. He knows if he ever needs anything, he can come to me for them. But interestingly, he's been married just a little over a year now. His wife is very intuitive and very interested in what I do. So he's slowly working his way back around to it, because the universe will give you gentle opportunities to work around if you opt out. And then if it truly is your path in this lifetime, you can continue to opt out. But the universe may give you some more challenging opportunities to work with those things. So if you turn it down now, more opportunities will come. And sometimes the opportunities become a little more insistent, but you can still always choose to opt out.
And also, too, I think the idea is that people get afraid, will it take my life from me? My son, he came to me in the 70s, and then he left. And then he came back to me again in the 80s of this lifetime now. And when he was in this, he took on a very difficult lifetime, and I was wondering why he came back to me a second time. And it was that he wanted to learn from me, and he went through horrible addictions, horrible alcoholism, suicide 13 times, really just pounding the pavement on humanity and just really fighting up against the dark forces. And one day he just stopped, and it was 8/17/17. He has a big tattoo on his arm. And I said, oh, Josh, finally. I said, that's the end of your karmic circle. You've now closed the door of affinity. You know, he said, good. And he's been good since. However, he's now helping gang members to understand the value of life. So I think sometimes we can take our abilities and we can work with all of the dark forces, and we can work all through that in life. But then we could say, okay, I think I'm done with that. And now say, I see it in others, and how can I show them to find the light in what their abilities are? But also, too, it's really important about psychic abilities. You and I are not talking about saving anyone, giving anyone information that's going to cure and heal them, just like, hey, let me click my fingers, or setting them on a path that their life will never be difficult or challenging again. That is not at all what we're talking about, right?
No, it would be awesome if it was, but that is not. That is not. You cannot click your fingers. By the way, I love the 888 symbolism of your sun.
Yes,
that's incredible. That's amazing. And the other thing is that I also truly believe, and I have seen, and it is my experience, that by recognizing that you are in a karmic cycle, you can at any point choose to step outside of that karmic cycle while you're embodied, while you're living. Most people don't know that they have that option, and so many people do not do it, but that is a possibility of something you can do, but it first takes the awareness and self-awareness before you can step outside of that karmic cycle. But no, we are not talking about a life free from difficulty and struggle, but we are talking about stepping into a way of being within that storm where you're the reed that bends in the storm and doesn't break. And the storm can flow all around you and you can observe it, but you don't have to attach to it and you don't have to engage with it.
Yeah, it's funny you said that, because living here in New Orleans, we experienced Katrina, and then we were kind of like, it shook me to my core kind of a little bit, but not really, but it kind of did. And then we had Ida just this past year, and we almost died from heat stroke. And the whole time the storm was going on, going, this is ridiculous. This is no big deal. It's just the aftermath with how you have to live afterwards, you know. But I think the idea sometimes is that people say, but let's say I have a disease, am I going to die? Or is the doctor going to save me? Am I going to have a good death? All of these fears is how you're propagating your life versus are you in awareness and experiencing your life? That's two different things. Because what you and I are talking about is, well, I mean, if you're hitting the wall today, fantastic. I want to know about that disease. Hey, man, tell me about that treatment. How bad was it? You know, fantastic. Because then that's a feeling and an emotion that you can engage in. And then you can see, ooh, all of a sudden, I feel better. I just shared my story. That's an energy shift. Okay, got it. Yeah. Maybe I'll do that again, you know? And once they start to feel it within them, then they get on the thing. Oh, this is a good thing. Maybe I could try it. Maybe I can move my own energy. Maybe I could see when the doctor's saying something. Oh, no, I don't want to go that way. I don't want to do that thing, you know? So I think you become more empowered within your own essence, don't you think?
I think so. And I would also actually like to point out, by the way, that I get caught up in my own story and my own crap just as much as anybody else does. I think the difference. Yeah, right. I think that's really important, because it's important that people know that I'm not speaking at them from this lofty perch. I am not. I buy into my story. I think the difference is, and this is what I tell a lot of the people that I do the private consulting with and the coaching with, is it's the distance, basically usually in time, between getting caught up in your story and recognizing you're getting caught up in your story, that starts to shorten as you start to engage with your abilities and engage in the universe with curiosity and awareness and stop attaching to things. You still get attached to things, but you recognize your story much more quickly. That gap narrows as you go along.
Yeah, I think we use our story to be able to inspire and teach others as you grow, you know, forward. So sometimes people say, do you mean I can't talk about it? I mean, I'll say, absolutely not. Have at it, you know. But what you find is that the story will have a different mode to it. It will take on a different energy. It will have, it will show up on a flower plate. Do you know what I mean? It will show up in retrospect. It won't show up so that you have to feel the pain again. You have to feel that pain in your back. You need to have the starting to sweat or your stomach being upset. Those things tend to drift off as you become farther and farther away from that tether line, right?
Yeah, to some extent. I mean, I think that, so just let's talk about something really concrete so that people can understand a physical ailment, since you mentioned that. So in this lifetime, I have partnered with celiac disease. It is just, and it is because for some reason, not eating sourdough bread, which I miss dearly, is serving something for me, whether it's serving a higher purpose or whether it's serving some story, I believe. I don't know, but it is I have partnered with that illness for now in my lifetime, and it's because it's part of my story and it's serving me. So when someone has a physical ailment, that physical ailment is serving some purpose in their life. When people have a spiritual issue, that spiritual issue is serving something in their life, and they can tune in to their awareness. They can tune into their psychic abilities. They can tune into their dreams and start to recognize how that serves them. Now, clearly, I still partner with celiac disease, and therefore, for some reason, that part of my story is still serving something, and I have not zeroed in on what that is for me.
Right.
And that's okay, because if I should have zeroed in on what it was, I would have. I didn't. So right now, it isn't something that I should have. And when it's time, I will zero in on it. And I won't be in partnership with that, whether it's in this lifetime or a next one.
And don't you think that's what's so vitally important, Karen, is that I can honestly tell you, I can count tons of people that have said in my life, well, if you were so perfect, then why do you have that problem? And I'm going, whoa, wait a second. You know what I mean? And they're all like, well, you look so perfect. You don't know what this means. And I'm going, whoa, you don't know what that means. You know what I mean? So I think the idea sometimes is that you and I, being open in awareness and knowing, do we know you should turn left instead of right at the end of the road? Do we know that perhaps maybe that food wasn't good for you? Like I did last night, I picked up my dinner and I ate one spoon, and all of a sudden, man, was I sick for the rest of the night. You know, and I threw the rest of it away, but for some reason, it just said, oh, you just needed a purging, and we wanted to remind you. I said, okay, good. But I think the idea is that, are your psychic abilities going to make you a perfect person? Answer's no. Are they going to make you, you know, all this whole idea of, well, let's ground and put up our shielding and we're good to go. We will never see a dark energy. You know, I have friends that are really high in the spiritual stuff, and they're like, oh, I walked down the street and I could feel that dark energy with that person. And I just cast out my white light, and I'm going, how nauseous of you. There's another word I want to use, and I can't remember it, but how nauseous.
Well, it feels like not super compassionate is what it feels like.
It was almost like, how dare you cast your white light in discretion of their experience? That's not what you do.
Yes.
You know?
Right.
And I think the idea is that you and I pretty much float in all dimensions, float in all entities. We see the dark, we see the light, we hit the wall, we get sick, and sometimes things just don't turn out for us, and we do overdraft our bank account, or we definitely have been, as you and I can share, we've got a lot of medical diagnosis up the wazoo, but
yeah,
and it's almost as if we forget those are veils of the environment, of the outside in which our human vehicle is going through. So who's telling us that we have to be in perfection and not see them or feel them?
Yeah.
Well, heck,
if
psychic abilities is seeing, feeling, and knowing, who are we to decide which is good, bad, or the ugly? Because then we're living a lateral life, I call it. We're living back and forth in a lower frequency. What you and I are talking about is using our abilities to step up. And yes, our toes will get sucked down into this stuff, but we don't live in there all the time. Yes?
I think that's true. And I think the other thing, at least for me, is that if I was a perfect human, first of all, I wouldn't have had a lot of incentive to come back to a body in this lifetime. And the other thing is, I truly think that I can much better meet people, the people that I write to, the people write for, the people that I consult with, and all of those things. I can much better meet them where they are when I truly have an embodied knowledge of what it feels like to struggle, because I do, and that makes me more compassionate to them and more relatable to them, so they don't think that I'm just somebody who's telling them something not from experience.
And aren't you, as I, drawing on your past life experiences too? So in essence, we are reading those ancestral lineages and our soul lineages. It's interesting. People think that our ancestral lineage is who we are. And I'll say no. Our soul essence is who we are. It's just that it went on this trajectory and it intersected with an ancestral lineage. And then we as avatars downloaded that, and now we're carrying it as our, quote, own. So I think people get stuck into that paradigm, and they say, well, I have it because they had it. No, you have it because you're reading it in your avatar memory, and it's your choice what you do with it now, right?
It's an opportunity. It's always everything is an opportunity. And when I teach my energy healing classes, one of the first things I do is define what that means, what healing is. Because I think we think of healing, I don't want to say wrongly, but we think of healing in a very narrow and limited way. And in doing so, we limit what the universe can deliver to us. So we look at healing as basically an absence of symptoms, I think. Like, my symptoms go away, I'm healed, I can eat sourdough bread again.
Right.
And I think that that's a very narrow definition. So whenever I teach an energy healing class, the very first thing we do is we define what healing is. And for me, what healing is merely existing in an energetic space that serves your greatest good. And that I even remind people that in some cases that can be anything up to and including leaving this body, transitioning from this body and returning in another body. So dying can be healing.
Right.
Yeah.
But also, too, don't you think, Karen, is that when we talk about living in that state of healing, it could be for 10 seconds a day. It could be for 2 minutes a day. You know what I mean? It could be the full 24 hours. And then not again for 6 months. So I think the idea is, are we consistently within that paradigm? Are we always healing? Are we in a perfect, healed state? Are we always on our knowing with our psychic abilities? The answer is not always.
Well, we're human.
Yes.
There are things that humans have agreed to experience and work with, because it's part of the human experience. And those are things like emotions and loss and having bodies that are actually relatively frail, and things like that. So we've accepted that that's part of the adventure that our soul is going on when we come into a human body. But we are still human. And therefore, anything we experience, we beat ourselves up when we can't kick an illness or when we feel like, I know so many people who are grieving right now because it's been a very difficult couple of years, right? And I have had people say to me so many times, and I've even had this thought myself occasionally, oh my God, I should be above this. Right, I should be better than this. And we're judging ourselves for things like grief, but those are the things that we chose as when we chose to become human. And those are things, they have just as much value in the human experience as joy and creativity and laughter and feeling good and all of those things. And we've become this, there's this perception that if you are spiritual, you're joyful all the time and your body never hurts and all of these things. And that'd be awesome. Yeah. But the truth is that those things exist for us. And it's okay. It's part of being human. So allow yourself to feel your feels and allow yourself, maybe your body is like you just said, well, maybe my body needed to purge for a few hours. Right. Well, sometimes you hurt yourself, and the reason you hurt yourself is because you need a rest. And you're not going to stop. So I'm from the 80s. I was born in the 60s, but I became an adult in the 80s, and I was a competitive bodybuilder and an aerobics instructor. And I was in the gym hours and hours a day because I was also working as a trainer. And I worked out this was in the 80s when no pain, no gain was a thing. Okay. And so I worked out probably 20 to 30 hours a week. And that was when my body broke. And my body said, no more. I was in an auto accident. I got whiplash, but sometimes you probably know this. A traumatic injury can trigger a latent condition. And I had Hashimoto's. And right after I had this accident, my Hashimoto's started. And all of a sudden I had exercise intolerance, and I couldn't do any of those things. And to me, at that time, it felt like the worst thing that could ever have happened. But imagine me now if I was still spending 20 to 30 hours a week just working out in the gym. My entire life was at the gym, training people, fitness, exercise, eating broccoli, all of that, all of the time, right? Would I be sitting here having this conversation with you?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So my body, for many years, I thought, oh, my God, my body betrayed me. And I was so angry at my body because I felt so betrayed by what had happened to it. But now I can sit here and look back and recognize that it was such an incredible gift. Yeah. And thank God my body did that, because that's when I stepped into my true empowerment, and I stepped into my true purpose in life.
Because I think we really learn that we are so much more. We are so much more than this body. We are so much more than the story. We are so much more than, quote, the human vehicle, so to speak. I've always shared on the radio show that I really, when I think about myself, I think of a ball of golden glitter, and it's just spiraling inside of me. And the human vehicle, the human body, is a wetsuit. And on the front of it is all of these badges. And they light up, you push them and they light up, and that's who you are for today. Or, when you talk to somebody, I walk up to somebody and I've got this Rolodex in my head. What is it they want to know about who am I that's going to engage or, connect with them? What part of me are they trying to find? So in essence, what you and I are saying is that in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, we were really tagging on those badges. I mean, I can remember it was how many letters can I get behind my name? I mean, I've got how many degrees? Do you know what I mean? Let's just tack all of those suckers on there. And So we tagged on all the badges, but really you and I, when we hit these things, we say, okay, time to disrobe, time to let those go. However, you and I would not have had this conversation about letting go of badges in the 80s or 90s because the entire cosmic flow was not in sync with it yet. That's why in the year 2022, where we are now, we can say, I let go of all my badges. They're all gone. Let me tell you about them. Here they are. So we are now able to share it from a different perspective because the cosmic energy is in a different frequency and we're able to flow with it versus being in such disharmonic, bumping into all kinds of crap eons ago. Now we are able to be in the flow, so to speak. Isn't that what your book is truly about? How can you get into the flow and start feeling and sensing and knowing what's going on?
I think you're right. It's not a way that I necessarily would have put it. I was kind of laughing as you were talking because I'm upstairs in my studio because I was trying to get away from my dog who's barking at the door anyway. So shouldn't have done that. But I'm upstairs in my studio, which has my wall of badges and all of my degrees and all of the letters behind my name. I mean, because you put them up there, right? And I put them up many years ago. I've lived in this house for over 20 years. So I'm sitting here in this room, and as you were talking about it, I just started looking at my wall of badges and thought, oh, yeah, because I kind of forgot they were all up here.
Right.
I don't even notice them anymore. So, yes, yeah. I think that you're right. I think that energetic shift is huge. And I believe that we are in the middle of an energetic shift. I do think it started kind of probably in the late 60s, early 70s. And I think we're probably maybe about halfway through, like we're at the top of the bell curve kind of, right. And because I think that vibrational shift is happening. I think that humanity is attempting to do something that it has tried to do in the past and hasn't done very successfully. And possibly even extincted itself or reached near extinction as a result. And that's shift energy while in a human body. And I think that that's what we're doing. And I think that that's why we've had so many opportunities to rethink and reevaluate and relook at the things that we thought were important to us in the last 30 to 40 years.
Absolutely. I've shared this before. Someone had said to me, what'd you do one day? And I said, I sat. And they said, what do you mean you sat? I said, I sat all day. They said, oh, you just wasted the whole day then. What are you going to do tomorrow? Waste another day? And I said, oh, no, I was so busy I sat. And truly what I was doing was raising my vibration that day. I was just plain sitting still, staying away from all the environment. And it was the best day ever. However, they were so far on the other side that they couldn't see what the other side was conceptually trying to say. So when people read your book, again, The Ultimate Guide to Psychic Abilities, it's truly saying, can I allow myself to jump out of that really harsh kind of closed-in space that I was in and be able to say, ooh, I'm going to go sit and see what shows up for me. I'm going to go sit and feel what's coming around. I'm going to go sit, listen, tune in. Even this week, past 2 weeks, I'm going, man, is someone's phone ringing or what is this bell? I've had the bell thing's been going off for about 2 weeks. It keeps ringing and ringing. I'm going, oh, okay, cool, but it's awareness of it. So do you think that sometimes we have to say, are you willing to be open to a new way of thinking and of being in this world? Isn't that what you really want to share with others?
That's absolutely 100% what I want to share with others is that even a tiny shift in the way that you think or are, the way that you be. I'm sorry, I'm an editor, so saying the way that you be feels really wrong, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah. The state of beingness that you choose. I think that even a tiny shift in that can be so incredibly empowering and open you up to new things. And it doesn't take much for a teeny tiny shift in awareness. It's changing one thought. It's noticing one new thing. It's
right.
finding one new tool. It's looking into something you're curious about, or it's taking the 5 minutes of downtime you have and actually letting it be downtime.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that truly sitting really helps. A lot of times people say, but, I want to do meditation. Okay, meditation's great. I've kind of gotten to the point where they said, oh, we have a guided meditation. Come on in. I'll say, you're not guiding me anywhere. I can go on my own, and it was like not happening, because, I've had a lot of spirits jump me over my lifetime, so I'm pretty familiar with that. And it's been very interesting to be able to get to that awareness. I think once you start getting there, you want to find people like you and I to be able to have a talk, instead of sharing recipes or, what the next best cleaner is or how you're treating your kids is, hey, we want to really talk about the really cool stuff. And that's what you and I did today, yes?
Yes, for sure.
It's really cool. Well, Karen, it was such a pleasure to have you with us. We could probably talk for eons, but we are coming to the end for today, and truly I think we want to say, no matter what's going on for you, find someone to be able to share it with. You and I both have websites. We both have venues that you can send us emails and be able to say, hey, I'm kind of stuck, or I kind of don't know, and get some help. But also, too, share it with your friends or share it with your loved ones. Sometimes your loved ones, though, are not really the best. Hey, we have a few seconds. Let's talk about loved ones who are stuck in the dimensions because you being in that lower vibration validates who they are. Woo, how about that one?
There's the saying, your vibe attracts your tribe. It does. I love the people in my life, and I have people in my life that I choose to spend a lot of time with who have a vibration that works well with me where I am. And then I have other people in my life who I love dearly, but I spend less time with because their vibration feels uncomfortable at the moment. And it doesn't serve, and I don't want to be pulled back into my old pattern of vibration.
Right. Yeah, and also, too, to recognize that I know for myself I'm in this really super high, I can't remember saying on this show, I'm in the 23rd dimension, which people hurry up because I've been holding my foot in the door for a long time. Don't know where that came out of my mouth, but it did. And and then, I'll have my husband say, well, you need to come back to reality. The world is in a certain reality. You're going to have to exist there. I said, don't drag me back into that. So I think the idea is that can we coexist in our different frequencies and just say, I see him for his space and his time for himself. I see myself for where I am also. And just understand that we can coexist within these different spaces and times. It's just that you don't trigger others all the time. You can trigger them, and then something will come up, and you'll say, oh, cool, I got that. Wow, that really showed me something. But it's just that you're not at a constant battle. You don't want to be on that battleground all the time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We always get to choose whether we react to someone or something. And we also get to choose, by the way, the information that we consume, how we consume that information, and how we allow it to affect us. And so it's not just the people in your life, it's the news events. It's the world around you. It's the person that flips you off when they're, when you're driving in traffic, all of those things. You can greet those people with a spirit of acceptance, and those situations and those news events with an acceptance of love and recognition and acknowledgement that they are also of source energy and light energy. Just be in where they are and still be where you are.
Yes, because, some of the things, some souls may have taken on the challenge in this lifetime to be a real jerk. They may have said, I'm going to go down to be a jerk because I know that if I'm a jerk, I'm going to be able to help other people, Or they may say, I'm going to go down and I'm going to be that person that is just going to push everybody's buttons, Or for myself, I always just tell people whatever comes out of my mouth. My daughter says, "My God, do you believe what you just said?" I said, "I have no clue what I just said." It came from somewhere, something. So I think the idea is that to respect everyone in their space and time, to understand your psychic abilities, and just to use them as tools to navigate your space. That's all we're saying here, right?
Yes, for sure. And use them as tools of empowerment, and just accept them and love them and recognize them. And they're not scary. They're not dangerous. They are truly your higher self helping you to navigate the everyday world.
Yeah. And just know that things will shift. You may have them for a period of time, and they may go away. They may come back in a different form. All of this is truly out there. It could be almost anything that's out there around you. You just never know, right?
Yes, that is correct. I actually have a friend right now who has always been an incredibly talented psychic whose gifts are not working for him right now, and that's where he is. Yeah. And to still understand that it doesn't take away from your soul essence, because your soul essence doesn't have a label. Your psychic ability is something you're putting a label on, Yeah.
So, think about it. That might be the veil or the shield or the wetsuit that you're holding that has that identity. However, you're still that essence, and it doesn't really matter. It's just the time that we're in, right?
That is correct. I agree with you 100%.
Well, Karen, it was such a pleasure to have you with us. Can you share with the listeners how to find out more information about your work? That would be wonderful.
Sure. So I have a website. It's author Karen Frazier. That's spelled FRAZIER.com. And you can find everything there. I have blogs. I have a lot of free information. I do have guided meditations for people who want to work with that. And then you can find out what all of my books are. You can find out about my podcast on there. You can find all of those things. And if you want to interact with me on a lighter way, I am also on Facebook as author Karen Frazier. And I am on Instagram, which is where I kind of do most of my informational stuff. And that is author KFRAZ as my Instagram handle.
Very good. Well, it's such a pleasure to have you with us here, because I think that we truly want to have a light, inspirational kind of talk and kind of open the windows for others and say, hey, it's springtime, open it up and just see what's out there. And I think we did that today. So I thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
If you'd like to find out more information about Karen Frazier, again, her book is The Ultimate Guide to Psychic Abilities, a practical guide to developing your intuition. Please do click on the link on the bottom of today's show page for more information and go directly to her website. And both Karen and I, as being intuitive psychic abilities and being able to help guide you, just ask for help. Reach out. Check out all of our free information. Ask for a session. Just pick up the phone and say, what, I think I need to get some help, and let's talk. That's truly what we're here, to be able to provide this essence of sharing our stories, of sharing our guided abilities, and definitely sharing that it's all going to be okay. You just need to find some other people to be able to bounce it around, what's going around in your head, your heart, and your soul. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. This is Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher, and until tomorrow, have a great day.
Today we discussed many life-changing concepts. Who do you turn to, and how do you know what is best when faced with a health crisis? Dr. Jeanette is a patient advocate. She listens to the patient, the doctors, and the family, clarifies the health issues and concerns, then helps the patient make the best choices going forward. If you would like help implementing change into your life and health, we can talk and see where you are stuck and how to improve the quality of your life. Check the link on the bottom of today's show page or visit dr-jeanette-gallagher.com to schedule a phone appointment today.